Are you concerned about that, either of you, that we're heading that way, or is that something that you think human rights commissions everywhere should expand and be a little more protective? What's your view?
Well, we've been concerned about that for a long time, that they've taken on the role of censorship in speech and freedom of speech and freedom of religion. And so instead of arbitration between persons who have a dispute, say in employment or housing or something like that, it has become the thought police. And the problem with human rights commissions is, of course, that they are a third level of governance. They are neither the law, neither the government, and they have the authority and the power to impose sentences that nobody can circumvent, or nobody can appeal, or can do anything about it. And those commissions are a judge and jury at the same time, and there is no appeal. So I think it is time that those human rights commissions, that the laws are amended and that their powers are curtailed.
Sharon, I mean, you teach in a business faculty at a university. One of the famous human rights cases involved a printer in Ontario who decided he didn't want the business of a gay activist group and said no. And the Ontario Human Rights Commission went after him and forced him, and there were fines, and there's a big hubbub and all the rest of it. From an academic business education point of view, how do you square that whole circle about I'm running a business, I can decide whether I'm having that customer or this customer, and yet I'm being told that I can or cannot?
It really depends on if your business is blocking the entrance of another business person into the marketplace. Then you have power. If there's another supplier who can supply that material or those services to individuals, then it's not such a touchy case because they can go to another supplier. But some businesses are so powerful that they can control the entryway into the entire marketplace, and indeed they do have to play by really a different set of rules. They have to be more fair.
Well, I think that makes sense, but obviously there's got to be 100 billion small printers in Ontario.
Actually, the Brocky case that happened now about 10 years ago, and he ended up with a $50,000 fine and lost his business. There were many other printers, but he was chosen particularly for he was a Christian printer to test the waters. And so the homosexual community could have easily gone to another printer that had no objection, but he picked him for that particular reason. And so that is why the tolerance only comes from one side. As a Christian, you have no right to follow your own conscience. If something is against your conscience, that something is offensive to you, you're obliged now to accommodate a point of view and to participate in something that is very offensive to you. And otherwise you are pulled before human rights.
Well, there has been a bit of a chill about this kind of thing. I worked in radio broadcasting for a while, and there was a bit of a chill on what you could or couldn't say on the radio. You did talk radio for a while, and you weren't allowed to say certain things after a while, and the station could lose its license and so forth. What about the grand world of academe? We believe that higher education is a place where the full and free exchange of ideas, where people are actually learning about different points of view and then formulating their own positions. Is there a chill? I'm not asking you to tell us any tales about your own school, but just generally speaking in the worlds of higher learning, what's the chill factor there now?
Well, generally speaking, academic institutions are supposed to be protected, and what I mean by that is that there are places where ideas should be flowing freely. That's why we have these institutions, so that there's a free flow of ideas and a pursuit of truth. And so anything that thwarts the free flowing of that ideas is really counterproductive to the whole raison d'etre of these institutions. However, that being said, we still have to be respectful of the rights of the individuals who are before us. So when students are in a classroom, I tell them that in this classroom you are immune from persecution. You are allowed to express your opinions freely in this classroom, and you are immune from persecution, which means that I, as an instructor, do not have the right to penalize you because I disagree with your opinion. However, just as with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, there are limitations on your freedom in this classroom, and the limitations are as follows. When you express your ideas, you must do so in a respectful way towards those around you, and you must not defame or swear or incite hatred among the fellow students, because then you're crossing onto breaching the rights of other individuals too.
And it all sounds great, but of course this is you, the teacher, talking to the students. But students, I mean, somebody may not like you, and you may say something, and they can run a complaint up, and you're the one who's at risk now. You've heard of stories like this, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think, though, there's always isolated incidents. One law professor told me, he said, Sharon, no matter how long you're teaching, 80% of the students, 10% of the students are going to love you, 10% of the students are going to hate you, and 80% of the students don't give a darn about you. So it doesn't matter who you're teaching or how long you're teaching or who you are, you're going to have individuals that don't like your views, and they're going to make a case about it.
What about higher education, Corey? I mean, you've been involved with kids and grandkids now coming up and seen these kinds of things before. Are you concerned about a lack of freedom or a bit of an academic chill in?
I do not know this from personal experience right now, but I do remember that there have been stories, of course, that there is a chill within academia. And I'm referring to the book that was just published, Unprotected, in which the author actually felt she could not publish it under her own name, for she felt she would lose her job. And that is total political correctness, even among colleagues. If she felt that she could not speak out on how she had to deal with her students, that she would indeed be fired and lose her job. And actually there are a couple of examples that this is happening not in the academic stuff, but within the clubs in the universities. And just this past weekend have been reports, and over the last few years actually, so that pro-life clubs have been denied club status. So if you talk about universities being open to all the wide variety of point of views within the club sector, that pro-life clubs are the only ones that have been denied status for the only reason that they are pro-life. That point of view is not accepted by the student body that decides who has club status or not, and they have not been protected by academia either, that they are allowed to have club status. And so this is happening with about 5 different clubs all across the country now. So there is a censorship, actually. Who can speak out, who can have a booth, who can have a club, and who cannot.
Well, the whole question of censorship of thought, I think, it's one that's worthy of discussion. I don't know the individual's name, but we've heard the stories about there would be some professor of sociology at some university with an outrageous theory about blacks or women or Jews or something like that, and outrageous, that on the face of it, you would think would be patently ridiculous. However, this is a university, and this individual should be allowed to bring this theory forward, undergo peer review, and it either is rejected or accepted. But just the sheer outrageousness of it creates a whole other firestorm. You must have heard these kinds of things, and I'm maybe it's stupid, the theory being advanced, but the fact that there is a theory and it is being discussed and it is being vetted academically, isn't there some value in just having a discussion?
There's a value in a discussion. We have to keep in mind the spirit of these laws, though. The spirit of the laws are to create and generate ideas, and not to do so in a way that is going to harm or incite hatred towards individuals in society. When you look at these cases, you have to look at how were the ideas presented? How did the professor present the ideas? We have to use a reasonable clause here. Did he present those ideas in a way that he was trying to incite hatred towards that group? Then he's crossed the line.
But you don't know that. I know just even from my own experience in government that when you just try to have a discussion about simple things, oftentimes just the fact that you want to have a discussion about it raises the, oh no, you can't talk about that, we're not going to do that, we're not going to do that. And in my view, whether you win or lose the argument or the discussion, just having it is worthwhile. Let's get all that stuff out there. We shouldn't be afraid, those of us who believe A shouldn't be afraid of hearing B, and vice versa, and let's all sit around and do. I mean, we're trying to do that a little bit on this program from time to time, but I don't think we should be afraid of the discussion. It seems we are.
Yeah.